Hi everybody, today I'm going to give you all a brief demo on how to import a table from SQL Server using Sqoop inside Hive. Before we do that, let me tell what Sqoop is and what it does. Sqoop comes into play in two stages of the ETL process, one in the extraction stage and one in the loading stage. The basic purpose of Sqoop is to move back and forth data from traditional RDBMS to Hadoop HDFS. The transformations on the data could be done using Pick and Hive. Pick and Hive are again high-level tools used for data analysis and transformations. For people who are familiar with Java programming and MapReduce programming, they could use that as well to do the transformations. But for people who are not familiar with Java programming, they could use Pick and Hive to do the same. Once the data is transformed, you could use again Sqoop to push back the data inside RDBMS, from where you could use traditional BI tools to perform data reporting and data analysis. So let's start our demo. Before we do that, we need to make sure that a few settings of a SQL Server are set right so that we don't have any issues connecting to SQL Server using Sqoop. So the first thing what you need to do is you need to create a login name and password using which Sqoop will try to connect to your SQL Server. To do that, you go to Security, right click, New, Login, and it's here you would give your login name and select to SQL Server Authentication given your password, and make sure you uncheck these boxes. So this is done. Once this is done, you need to go to your server, right click, Properties, go to Security, and make sure that you have selected the SQL Servers and Windows authentication mode, and let this be none. So this is the setting as far as the security is concerned. Once this is done, the second thing what you need to make sure is your network protocol is set to TCP. You could check that by running this simple query. When you execute it, you could see a list of information. The column which says net transport should show TCP and not shared memory. The shared memory would be the one in most of the cases, but you need to make sure that you set it to TCP. You could do that by opening SQL Server Configuration Manager, go to SQL Server Network Configuration, go to Protocols, and make sure that this TCP part is set to enabled and not disabled. You could enable it by again double clicking it and say yes. You can do that for a TCP. Once that is done, when you just run this query again, you should be able to see TCP and not shared memory anymore. Also, you need to make note of the local IP address and the local port number, because again we'll be using these two in our code to connect to SQL Server using Sqoop. So make a note of these two as well. The last setting what we're going to do is you need to open security logins, and you have created already a login using security. So in my case, I have created a login by name Hadoop 3. So I need to right click on this login, click on properties, and make sure that my login name is the one which I want to use, and also the password would be something else here. So you need to change this password to whatever you will be using. So I'm going to set my password here, and also the default database. In this selection, you need to select whatever database you want to connect through Sqoop. So whatever database you want to connect, you could select the database. In my case, I want to use AdventureWorks DW is the name of my database which I want to connect through Sqoop. So that is the one which I'm going to use. So I say OK. So these are all the settings as far as SQL Server is concerned. We're all set. Let's dive inside Hadoop. Today I'm using a hot-on-box sandbox distribution of Hadoop. You could also use Cloudera, or you could use a regular Linux system to download Hadoop and all the rest of the tools. But as far as Sandbox is concerned, we have most of the commonly used tools of Hadoop already pre-installed for us, so we don't have to install anything separately. Sqoop is installed as well for us in Sandbox, making things easier for us. So let's log in inside Sandbox. Okay. Yes, we have logged inside a Sandbox. To make sure that Sqoop is running inside Sandbox, we can type in the command Sqoop version, which displays the version of Sqoop which is currently being used. So it also indicates that Sqoop is running, uh, which is running inside Sandbox. So we know the version, it shows the version number here. So we know that Sqoop is running. Also, you could use the command Sqoop help to list a set of commonly used Sqoop commands and what each of those commands mean and what they can do. So you could use a list, you could use the Sqoop help command to see a list of commonly used commands. Once we do that, we want to check whether we are able to connect to the SQL Server through Sqoop. So for that, I'm going to use the command Sqoop connect databases, which is already there in this list. So I'm going to use the same command connect. One thing I forgot to mention is you need to make sure that you have the adequate driver for whatever RDBMS you are trying to connect. In my case, I'm using a SQL Server. So I downloaded the SQL Server driver already and installed in my system. In in the case of an Oracle database, you need to make sure that you have an Oracle database driver. So similarly, like whatever database you are using, you need to make sure that you have the appropriate driver installed. Otherwise, it would throw an error and it would not work. So you're typing in the IP address and the port number followed by the username. This is my username which I set in the SQL Server. So that's the same one I'm going to use here as well. So password is Hadoop 3 again. So let's see whether we are able to connect to SQL Server using this command. Yes, we are connected. We could see a list of databases which it's showing. This is the same list what we can see here. So it's the same list of databases which is shown in Hadoop as well. So we know that we are connected to the server. Now let's use Sqoop import command to see whether we can import a table. This is the command which I'm going to use. It says Sqoop import connect, the name of the driver. I've given the address, I've given the port number, I've given the name of my database, I've given username, password, and here you need to mention what table you want to import. In my case, I want to import the table by name reseller, which is the name of the table which I want to import. We want to import this table inside Hive. So we are using the command Hive import. So let's hit enter and see whether we are able to import the table dim seller from SQL Server inside Hive. The process has started. Yes, we could see the job number. That's the job number of our MapReduce job. The MapReduce has started. We could see the percentage of map and reduce, which will give us an indication as to what percent of the job is completed. So let's wait and see. It's 50% complete, 100% completed. So I guess our MapReduce job is done. Yes, we could see that it shows that the table dim reseller has been imported. So it's successful. So to make sure that the table is inside Hive, we can use the Hue interface, the web browser interface of Sandbox, to make sure that the table whatever we imported is there in Hive, so that we could do some transformations on it. So this is the Hue interface of Sandbox. Click on Hive and we could see the query editor window. We could also select, we could go to the tables tab and see whether our table is there. Yes, we could see here our table dim reseller is being successfully imported from SQL Server using Sqoop. Now using the query editor, we could do some simple queries. Let me just try executing a very simple query. Dim select all from dim reseller and see whether we are able to see all the information of that table. Let's execute it. Yes, we could see all the columns which are part of that table. Similarly, you could use a lot of other queries in Hive to perform your transformations. You could also use pig to do the same. So this brings us the conclusion. This brings us to the conclusion of our demo. I hope you all liked it, and thank you for watching.